Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality. While listening, you'll be exposed to inspiring, empowering, and unifying perspectives that I'm highly confident will yield stellar results in your life if you opt to try them on for size. Also, at optimistic.tv, we have officially begun releasing the first few episodes of our new late-night style, consciousness-elevating video variety talk show, Optimistic, which features live visionary art, soul share interviews, retreat guests here at the Mystic Manor, as well as live musical performances. I'm also super excited to announce that we are currently making plans to release the rest of Season 1 on my personal favorite online streaming service. So stay tuned to optimistic.tv to follow the unfolding development of this exciting Optimistic expansion, as we'll be posting more info and release dates there soon. And in the meantime, be sure to check out, of course, the first few episodes at optimistic.tv as well. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have John Assaraf here with me on the show. John is a best-selling author and renowned behavioral and mindset expert who has appeared in several movies, including the Law of Attraction documentary that attracted so much attention regarding, well, the Law of Attraction, The Secret. So apparently this stuff really works, and today he is going to share a plethora of insights and wisdom, including a bit about his latest book, Innercise, The New Science to Unlock Your Brain's Hidden Power. Hello, John. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello there, Brandon. Great to be on.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to this. And I have a great synchronicity story I'll share towards the end that will definitely get a chuckle that unfolded with this episode. Why don't we start at the same very predictable question I like to always kick it off with? You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You got 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
Helping people achieve their goals and dreams faster and easier than ever before.
Love it. With 9 floors to spare, you definitely are doing it quickly, so that's good.
One floor, just one floor.
That's all I need. Just give me a floor. So if you would, share a little bit. I always like to give some context to the listeners in regards to, the weekly Soul Share guest and their backstory, how they got in the unique situation, that they're in life, and to end up on the show where we all want to hear, the wisdom that you have. Tell us whatever feels relevant about your backstory.
Sure. I think like a lot of, maybe authors, personal development people, entrepreneurs, a lot of the successes that we've had came out of the failures and the things that didn't work out in our lives. And in my late teens, 17, 18, 19, I was getting into a lot of trouble with the law, smuggling in drugs from Miami to Montreal, doing breaking entries, getting in a lot of trouble. And my life was a mess, and I was either going to end up in jail or the morgue. So that was the prediction at the time. And the things that I was doing with the group of friends that I had were just getting more and more dangerous and more risky. So it was just a matter of time between, what I was doing and something drastic happening. And my brother knew that I was getting into a lot of trouble, and he lived about 350 miles away from me. And he said, "Hey, listen, why don't you come and visit me for the weekend? Let's talk. This is getting bad really fast, and there's somebody I want you to meet." And so I said, "Yeah, sure. I'll take the train down to meet you, and we'll hang around and have some fun and go party." And so I took the train down on a Friday morning, and he had a lunch set up with a gentleman by the name of Alan Brown, who was a real estate mogul, philanthropist, just a nice man that agreed to meet with me to see, as my brother said, if he can straighten me out. And during my lunch, this man asked me what my goals were. I said, well, number one, I'd like to get a real job. Number two, I'd like to buy a car. Number three, I'd like to move out of my parents' home. And number four, I'd like to make some money legitimately, so I don't have this shame and guilt, running through my veins on an ongoing basis, and the fear of something, drastic happening, which I know is, almost happened a few times. And so, in a long story made short, he asked me if those are my only goals. I said, well, yeah, I mean, those are my only goals. So, those goals are just about like survival. Those are your basic necessities. He says, what's your vision, your goals beyond that? And I said, I really have never thought beyond that. And he said, well, will you do me a favor? He said, I want you to dream a little bit. I want you to use your imagination. And he pulled out of his briefcase. Briefcases were big at the time. Pulled out of his briefcase these documents, and it was a goal-setting guide. He said, why don't you go sit at the table next to us and fill this out as much as you can? And so I sat down. The first question says, at what age do you want to retire? And here I was at 19 years old. I'm going, retire? What the fuck is this about? I'm trying to get going. What do you mean retire? The next question was, how much net worth do you want to have? And I had no idea what net worth was. Like, what is net worth? And it asked a whole bunch of questions. What kind of home do you want to have? What kind of car do you want to have? How much money do you want to give to charity? It had about 15 questions. And so I answered these questions. I wrote down, I want to retire by the age, 45. I want to have $3 million in net worth. I want to travel the world. I want to retire my parents. I want a Mercedes Benz. I want a beautiful house, blah, blah, blah. And I gave it back to him. And he said, wow, these are some actual really good goals. And all of them are achievable. He said, but I'm going to ask you one question. And the answer to this one question will determine whether you achieve them or not. And I could tell you, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is this guy on drugs? Like, what do you mean? The answer to one question is going to determine whether I achieve this or not. One question, yeah, my ass. And I was a cocky 19-year-old. And so he says to me, listen, are you interested in achieving these goals, or are you committed? And I thought about it for a second. I was like, interested, committed, interested. I said, what the fuck's the difference? And so I said to him, I said, Mr. Brown, what's the difference? I don't know the difference. And he said to me, son, listen, if you're interested in achieving these goals, you'll do what's easy and what's convenient. If you're interested, you'll keep using the excuse and the story you told me that you only went to grade 11 high school and you failed English and you failed math and you were voted most likely to fail in life. You'll use the excuse that your parents didn't go to school and your father's a cab driver and your mother works at the local store as a seamstress. You'll keep coming up with the stories and excuses and reasons why you can't or won't. He says, however, people who are committed upgrade their knowledge and skills. They change their story. They augment their beliefs to match the vision and the goals they have, and they develop the habits required to achieve every one of these goals. So, are you interested or are you committed? And I was like, wow, I mean, this is like putting me on the spot, right? So
Right.
I'm sheepishly moving around in my chair. And I don't know why, Brandon, to be honest with you, but I just said, I'm committed.
Yeah, just
And
whatever it takes to get out of this situation.
It came out of my mouth. And he gently, with a big smile, put his hand out towards me. And he said, in that case, I will be your mentor.
Ooh.
And I was excited. And then I said to him, Mr. Brown, what's a mentor? And that's how ignorant I was. And he said, I will teach you the things that I've learned. If you're committed, I will invest in you and teach you everything you need to think and do in order to achieve every one of those goals. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I said, but I live in Montreal and you live in Toronto. He says, I know. And the first thing that I need you to do is move to Toronto. And the first thing that came out of my mouth says, well, but I don't know anybody in Toronto. I don't have any money. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. He says, son, you're using your story and excuse already. I just asked you one thing. I said, I know, but that's the truth. He goes, son, make the decision first. Figure out how after. So I'm like, wow, okay, fine. I'll move to Toronto. He says, great. The second thing I need you to do, He said, on May the 5th, these are actual dates, by the way, and I can share with you why I know these dates so well.
Uh-huh.
He says, on May the 5th, there is a real estate class that starts. And since I'm in real estate, one of the best ways I can help you is teach you some of what I've learned about real estate. He says, I want you to enroll in the real estate class. It starts May the 5th, full time from 9 to 5 every day. It goes 5 weeks. You take a test, get the test passed, and you can come and work in my company on commission only. I'm like, you want me to go back to school? I said, I hate school. I failed English. I failed math. I told you that already. I am not a good student. School and I do not gel. It's like oil and water. He says, here you go again. You're telling me about your past, and I need you to focus on now and what you can do, what you couldn't do in the past versus what you couldn't do in the past. I said, I know, but, and I start giving him more excuses. And finally, he says, are you interested? Are you committed? I said, well, how much does it cost? He goes, what's the difference how much it costs? I said, well, I have $40. He says, I know, make the decision first. You'll figure out how to get the money later. He later tells me the course is $500. I had $40 in my bank account. So I made the commitment to move to Toronto. I made the commitment to go back to school for 5 weeks. I made the commitment to find $500. My brother lent me some money. My sister and my father lent me some money. I scrounged up the money. 5 weeks later, I took the test after I moved to Toronto. And on June the 20th, I got my real estate license. Now, this is 40 years ago, just so you know. 40 years ago. Now, why do I remember those dates so well? It was because, number one, I actually studied every single day. He helped me understand how to study, how to memorize, how to think. I passed the test by myself. And the reason that was so important, Brandon, is I had cheated in high school almost on every single test, including the test to get out of high school.
Right.
And grade 11. And so it was the first time in many, many years that I actually did something on my own where I built my self-confidence and a little bit of self-worth. And then I said, wow, I actually did this by myself and I passed. And so it was my Independence Day of, wow, maybe I can do something with my life. And then he started to teach me about real estate, and I made $30,000 for me in the first 12 months and $30,000 for him because I was on a 50-50 split. And he kept helping me upgrade my knowledge and my skills. And at 21 years old, I started making $150,000 a year. And that was the beginning. So we can take it from there.
Pretty cool. Yeah. You know what instantly comes to mind with me, John, whenever like such a big intervention, a mentor situation like that just happens to be so fortuitous, right? That it's your brother knew him and he was willing and open and you were just open enough to sort of heed the call. I always think of like, there must be some great soul contract and back history there in previous lives. That's instantly where my head goes. So I just think that's fascinating. Was he someone that remained in your life for a long time, or was he, 40 years ago, I don't know if he's still with us or he was much older?
Well, you talk about an interesting story. So after working with him for 2 years, I went off to work for somebody else. Then I went to travel around the world. And when I came back, I lost touch with him. Last year, true story, my front desk manager gives me a call and says, hey, John, there's a young man on the phone who wants to talk to you. He just heard you on an interview tell this story about this man named Alan Brown. He thinks you're talking about his father.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, sure. I've tried to reach, Alan Brown every time I went back to Toronto, over the last 20 years, never found him. He's probably dead now. So the guy calls back a week later and says, listen, I really think that this man is my father. Can I talk to John, please? So I say, okay, this guy's calling back. I get on the phone with this kid. He's a doctor in New York. And lo and behold, it is his father. And he puts me in touch with him last year. And I called him up and I sent him all of my books and I thanked him for changing my life. And so he's in his 80s now. And it was like unbelievable.
How cool.
38 years later, I was able to thank him for that act of kindness and for setting me on the right path. And for the most part, probably saving my life in one capacity or another.
Wow. What a cool story. Love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's let's talk a little bit about your latest book and your work in general. Innercise, the new science to unlock your brain's hidden power. Obviously, we all want to learn how to maximize our potentiality and obviously people also are going to need to read the book to get the full download, but I'd love to touch on some of the the high points of the book and some of the things that you think would be most appropriate to share here.
Sure. So in continuation of the story, back in 1980, one of the things that Mr. Brown had me do is every day he would have me look at those goals that I had initially set at that lunch with him. I had rewritten them, I had them typed out, and every day I would read them, I'd run my fingers across them, I would close my eyes, I would visualize and pretend like an astronaut has to visualize, like an athlete visualizes. I visualized having the lifestyle that I had written in that document. And what I didn't know then that I know now is inadvertently or by design, I was training my brain to focus on those goals every single day. I
Right.
was training my emotions to be in that emotional state of having, being, doing, experiencing those things. And why is that important? Well, I used the exact same principles that he taught me. And then I went on to build my own real estate company from 1987 to 1997, where I had 1,200 salespeople,
Wow.
85 offices, and we were doing $4.5 billion a year in sales. And the way we got there is not by me teaching our real estate agents, how to sell more real estate. I taught them how to train their brain to reprogram their subconscious mind around their beliefs, their self-image, their habits, their fears. And when we focused on that inner game, like he helped me focus on, our results went through the roof. And every single company that I have built has been built upon the premise that within every human being, they own, I own, you own, everybody listening owns a $1 trillion biocomputer called your brain.
Yeah.
But there isn't a user's manual for it. So we stumble in life trying to, fly this proverbial rocket ship, and we've never been trained on how it works and how to navigate it. So I've written, several New York Times best-selling book, Having It All, The Answer, the Vision Board Kit, and the new one called Innercise, How to Unlock Your Brain's Hidden Power. And it's in the last 20 years that we have really started to discover the science of neuroplasticity, which means our brain is consistently wiring and rewiring itself. And the reason that is so important is we develop a series of habits, beliefs, emotional reactions that govern what we do or don't do every single day. And there's only 4 things that hold people back, in 2020, 2021, 2022 from achieving their goals and dreams. There's only 4 things. There aren't 25 things. There's only 4 things, and they're all within you and your ability to change. And so I wrote the book, Innercise, to help people prime their brain so that they eliminate the obstacles that are holding them back as they strengthen their muscles, or what I call the neuromuscles, so that achieving goals and dreams becomes easier instead of harder.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to consider. I love the way you said it, the $1 trillion biocomputer that is inside us, and we just don't have the user manual. And of course, every day we're the understanding of our brain and our own inherent power is exponentially growing. So it's such an exciting time to be alive, and to, you think back to think back to a few great grandfathers ago, what they understood about their potential in their brain, and
Right.
the law of attraction or law of emergence, or any of their spiritual self. It was such a rudimentary obviously there's you can't stereotype everyone. There's always exceptions to the rule, but in generally speaking, it was just riding around with this advanced machinery and having really no idea the power that is inherent inside of them.
Yeah, scientists up until 20 years ago thought that we were hardwired. We were born. We had a brain. We couldn't even see into a live human brain. We were just looking at a cadaver. That's like looking at a rock and trying to figure out like what's inside the rock, but you can't open it.
Right.
And so we now know that there are, major networks and major circuits, and certain things turn on networks and turn on or off circuits. We now know so much more about the intricacies and the interconnectedness of all of it, and what turns on, for example, your motivational circuit. What turns it off? What turns on your fear circuit? Well, how do you turn it off? What turns on your ability to focus or not focus? So we understand so much more now, and the science of neuroplasticity is simple. We're not hardwired, and even if the wiring is there, if we thought of it like software, even though the software is running on your computer, you can upgrade the software. Now, in order to upgrade the software, you need to know a little bit about how to access it and then how to upgrade it. And that's what my book Innercise is all about. And what I also did is, for this particular book, I created an entire series of Innercises, mental and emotional techniques, guided techniques that I actually walk the audience through to help them start getting more control of their brain. And with the book, I give people 9 audio-based Innercises for free, so they can start to see how to activate their motivational circuits, how to deactivate fear, uncertainty, lack of confidence, etc. How do you eliminate a fear or stop fear from holding you back and use it as fuel instead? How do you activate the visual part of your brain that can help you simulate the success you want so that you actually get motivated to take action? So all of this, everything I'm talking about, are simple skills that you can learn that when you practice, you just get better at the skill.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like anything. I mean, the more you do it, the more... the stronger the muscle is going to become, and the more natural it feels. Like you said, just earlier, training yourself to be in the state where you could actually be a 21-year-old who's making $150,000 a year, and then from there upgrading to someone who could run a company that's doing billions of dollars a year in sales. So it's. I always say it oftentimes on the show. There's a great quote. It's something to the effect of, when you come holding your bag of sugar to be filled, it will be examined to see how large it is. How much do you think you're worth? And, what is the capacity that you expect to be able to hold? And, for source, the universe, higher self, whatever you want to call it, to, give you a company that does $1 billion a year in sales is just as easy for it as, 100,000 from one perspective, right? It's all just energy. So, I love hearing stories like this.
Let me just backtrack to what you just said. It's yes and no, and let me maybe give you a different frame. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you 2 frames to look at. So for everybody who's listening, I want to ask a question first, then I'll give you the analogy. If you want to get healthy right now, if you choose to get, let's say, physically healthy, and let's say you choose and you can't right now run a marathon or jog a marathon. If you choose to get healthy and run a marathon a year from now, do we have all of the information readily available on what should you eat, how often should you exercise, how often should you rest, what should you do, what should you not do, what pace you should go? Could we, if we were serious and committed, figure out a plan to get there?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. Okay. If we wanted to start a business, and we don't know anything about a business right now, we want to start a business, but we know we're going to need to know sales and marketing, management and finance, and legal and product development and product and services and all that. If we decided to start a business, is all the information of how to start and grow a business successfully available right now?
Yes.
If we want to have a really great relationship with, doesn't matter, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, is there information on specific things you can do or not do if you're committed to having a great relationship?
Yep.
Yep. So all the how to is already readily available for every one of us now, more than ever in
Yeah.
the history of our species of 107 billion humans that have walked on Earth since the beginning of time. So the how to is the least of your problems. So that's part one. Part two, when we want to build, let's say, $100,000 a year income, let's say that's like having a 2x2 Rubik's Cube that, if you go onto YouTube, within, 5-6 minutes, you can figure out the Rubik's Cube and just follow the instructions.
Right.
If you want to make $1 million or 5 million or 100 million or a billion, the Rubik's Cube gets a little bit more complex.
Right.
So it's not that you can't do it. The complexity changes, and you just may need a little bit more time and resources, including financial and non-financial, to get there. So again, building $1 billion company is not the problem. Are you committed to learning and getting help on figuring out the complexity of the level of success that you want to achieve?
Right.
And if you say, yes, I am, then shit, yeah, you could build $1 billion company. But if you think that building $1 billion company is the same as building a $100,000 company, get off the crack, because it's not.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But it's doable.
It's a very important clarification. It's like universe is infinitely abundant. And we're talking, and if you look at it like I like to, oftentimes this is sort of like a video game. The $100,000 company is level 1, and the $1 billion company is maybe level 10. And you got to go through the levels to get there, and it takes a different level of skills and experience to do so.
Exactly right. And the good news is unless you're trying to colonize Mars, all the how-to is readily available.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And if you're tapped into the Akashic records enough, you might even be able to get a blueprint for Mars.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite books by Erwin Laszlo, Science in the Akashic Records, or the Akashic Field. Long time ago I read that.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, great book.
And what is the premise of that book? Just how to access information from the Akashic records?
Yeah, just, how do you use your brain, the greatest electromagnetic switching tool in the universe, to tap into the field that we're in? It's not like there's, an out there and an in here. We're in the field.
Right.
And we use our brain as the tool to tap into the field of all information, tools, and resources, people right now. Most people are tuning into what they don't want, and they keep wondering why it shows up.
Right, exactly. And one of the things that comes up, obviously you were on The Secret, which sort of drew so much attraction to the law of attraction. And I had a gentleman on a while back, you may or may not have heard of, named Derek Rydall, really great teacher and, author and all the things. And he talked about the law of attraction versus the law of emergence is how he preferred to sort of address it. And, what he went on to say is like, look, law of attraction, it's like, it's all already happened. It's all already there. The oak tree is inherent within the oak seed, or the acorn rather. And so it's a matter of creating the right conditions in order for what's already within you to emerge. And, I really like that perspective. And obviously it's just looking at the same thing from different angles and what have you. But I always think of that now, whenever, the topic of law of attraction comes up.
Well, do you want to know something that'll blow your fucking mind right now?
Twist my arm. Sure.
In my left hand, I am holding a small little glass vial, probably about 2 inches. And inside this vial is an acorn.
Really?
Swear to God.
Wow.
I can take a picture of it and send it to you if you don't believe me.
Wow. I love it. And you are holding that because...
I'm holding it because it was sitting here on my desk, and as I'm standing here talking with you, I just was holding it, looking at the
Wow.
oak tree as we were talking about, or the acorn, which is a story I share about the intelligence is all underneath the soil. The acorn attracts everything that it needs to create the sprout, and then it grows, and then the acorn, sprouts out of the earth, and then photosynthesis, the sun, creates this photosynthesis effect, which gives the food to the acorn to grow, and so all of it's part of the vibrational frequency of the acorn. So the acorn is in the oak tree is in the universe. You just have to have the right vibrational match in order
Mm,
for it to fulfill its potentiality. But I'm
yeah.
holding it. Wow, that is. I love when it's so blatant.
Well, that's the second time. I'm going to go ahead and share my very humorous story that we had before we turned on the microphone. So this morning, guys, everyone out there listening, I was, I'm getting prepared for this talk with John, and I get a picture from my girlfriend, who we've been dating about a year, and early on, and I met her in 2012, and early on when we were dating, she's like, yeah, my boobs are much smaller than they used to be when you met me, whatever. And then over the course of the year, she's been really extra healthy and nourishing herself more, and so she sends me a picture just before we jump on this call and says, look, this bra used to be way too big. Now way too small. Sorry, way too big, and now it's too small. This law of attraction thing we talked about earlier, it's working. My boobs have grown. And then, of course, I instantly am like, well, guess what? I'm about to jump on with John Assaraf, who was on The Secret talking about law of attraction. So we'll have to see what we can attract next. And I made a joke about Kim Kardashian's butt, and and we cracked out. So, and I love seeing the just all the energetic ties or threads of connectivity, because then you made the joke. It's like, oh, well, she can give me credit for that. And we laughed. And then you start talking about your mentor, and his last name is Brown. Her mom's maiden name is Brown. And we've had a lot of conversations around that because my mom's best friend's name is Brown. And, we were just talking about that sort of thing within the last few days as well. So for me, I just noticed, John, so many threads of connectivity with this stuff. It's like so multi-layered, like the acorn in your hand. And just sometimes it's like again and again and again and again. And it's just, it seems to be reflecting more than ever in my experience.
Yeah, and the more you're aware and looking for it, the more you realize it's always there. But a lot of people, if we go back to the law of attraction, I think, in the movie The Secret, there was, I think, a big misstep and misunderstanding by a lot of people. So if we understand the way the Secret portrayed is like, think, believe, and you'll achieve, and that's really not true. If you sit there and you meditate, and you pray and you visualize and you emotionalize, but you don't do anything, you are
Mm-hmm.
not going to have $1 million or a brand new car or a house just dropped on your lap. It just doesn't
Right.
work that way. People forget the last 6 letters of the word attraction are action. And so, when we are doing the right things in the right order at the right time, when we have, I like to teach all of my students, the law of attraction is all about the law of resonance,
Yeah.
right? So if we understand resonance and frequency, if you think about, when musicians play their instruments individually, that's great. But when they are playing in harmony, that's the resonance. When the orchestra is in harmony, it's seamless. It's like every piece just fits together in harmony. So the question that I always ask, my students is, are you spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically in harmony with that which you desire?
Right.
So at the spiritual level, do you really know and feel that there is abundance everywhere, all the time within you? Yes or no? And the answer from my perspective is, yeah, that's the essence of spiritual, right? The essence
Yeah.
is that abundance, omnipotent, omnipresent, equally present at all places, at all times. So that's part one. then are you emotionally in resonance with the vision and the goal that you have? And what that means is that you're not in a state of fear or doubt or uncertainty, because that changes your frequency. Then are you mentally focused on that goal? And if we take energy again, the sun, 93 million miles away, takes about 8+ minutes to get to my skin, to warm up my skin. I can use the sun's energy to get a nice tan. I could take a magnifying glass and hold it between the sun and a piece of paper and magnify the sun's energy to burn a piece of paper. I can
Right.
further take the sun's energy and reduce it to single photons and create a laser. Same energy, focused, I can cut through steel. So, are you laser focused on that vision and goal that you want? Yes or no? And then the third part is physical, right? The lowest denominator of all of this is physical, right? It's kind of like the difference between nuclear, chemical, and physical. Nuclear is a million times more powerful. So if we're operating from the spiritual through the emotional and the mental, and then we get this physical manifestation, called a human, into action, doing the right things in the right order at the right time, now we have coherence. And when we have coherence, that's the resonance that is required to achieve your goals faster and easier. And most people have never been trained to think this way. It's not taught in kindergarten, schools, universities. And so at the molecular energetic level, the more we could be in coherence, in harmony with that which we seek, the more we actually see it happening all around us. And our brain starts to resonate, vibrate, oscillate, and actually find the stuff that is deleting and distorting right now.
I love that. I love that breakdown and perspective. Very, very potent. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Nassim Haramein?
Yeah.
Okay, so Nassim posted something the other day that I thought was a really interesting perspective, and I'll share real quick. He said, "There's a concept that a person can create their own reality. This concept is only partially correct because it is generally discussed in a one-way manner, i.e. a person sending a message to the field with a request, intention, prayer, desiring an outcome. This is only half the loop. The wave you're sending is the feed forward part of the loop. You need to realize that the wave coming back is the feedback, which is the rest of the universe creating its reality and responding to you. The universe, Planck field, or the divine, interacts with the rest of humanity and your creation, and the universe gives you a result that is a combination of everyone's feed-forward waves. If a person could create a reality exactly the way they wanted it, a few things would happen. One, you would be the only one in it because everyone else would be creating their own. It would be very lonely. Two, you'd also be bored within seconds since you had everything you wanted. What happens is that you put your intention out into the field and you stay open to what comes back, realizing it's going to get modified for the highest evolution of the whole. This unexpected feedback gives you empathy for yourself and others. You might not get exactly what you expected, but now you're learning from the experience. The totality of everyone's learning is how the universe learns about itself." I thought that was a really interesting way to tie in, everyone else's co-creation with Absolutely. It, right?
Yeah. And what happens is when you're collapsing the wave function, which is what he's referring to, you start to resonate with others who are also on that same frequency. And another visual that I like to use is everybody has, either a mobile phone that they tune into music, or a radio that they tune into music, or even a TV station to tune into a station. When they're locked in on whatever station they're on for whatever type of music they're on, then by default, they're locking out all of the other stations or frequencies that are already here. So
Right.
the tuner tunes into the frequency that you lock and load on. So if you want to change, from rock and roll to classical, let's say rock and roll's on 95.5 and classical's on 95.6, the very, very next station, classical's there. But how come you don't hear classical on the rock and roll station, right? Because you block out, that frequency by locking onto the frequency you want. Well, if we go back to, what I started doing 40 years ago, every day, reviewing my goals, my vision, my beliefs, the habits, the emotions. I was locking in every single day onto the frequency I wanted to be in. And guess what I did this morning at 4 a.m. when I woke up, which is unusually early, is the first thing I do is I lock in. I start my day every day by locking in and priming my brain onto the stations, the channels that I want it to lock in on. And that therefore collapses that wave at the beginning of every day. And then I've got some other techniques that I teach my students of what to do every hour just to stay back, on track and in resonance.
Yeah, that's such a wise thing to do, to start your day so intentionally, and to sort of tune to the channel you want to hear playing throughout the day, right?
Yeah. And think about this, like, what are most people doing throughout the day? Most people don't have the discipline, right, to get focused and stay focused on what they want. So, they check their emails, they check their texts, they turn on the news, they hop onto Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is that they do, and all hell breaks loose. All the
Yep.
negative news, all of the people who are trying to get your attention with their stupid videos and their useless memes and the stuff that really won't move the needle for you, other than maybe make you laugh or in many cases make you sad. But if
Yeah.
you recognize that if that's the way you're starting your day, that's how you're turning on your biocomputer, and your biocomputer picks up on the rhythms that you set, then it sets the rhythms for you based on your frequency of doing it. Are you automatically setting yourself up to win or to fail every day, to be happy or sad, to be focused or unfocused? Everything that we do is reinforcing a pattern that then reinforces us. Are your patterns constructive? Are your patterns positive? Are your patterns inspiring you or expiring you? Everything is a pattern. And so the first thing that you want to do, and one of the things that I teach in my book, Innercise, is there's an Innercise called Aya, A-I-A. And Aya is the simple innercise. It's part of being mindful of awareness, intention, action. So earlier, if you recall, I shared that I have a practice every hour. And the practice that I have every hour is on my iPhone, which is on my desk. At 55 minutes past the hour, a bell goes off. And that just means that I stop what I'm doing, as long as I'm not on an interview or something. I stop what I'm doing and I take 6 deep breaths in through my nose slowly, out through my mouth slowly. That's actually called Innercise number 1, take 6, calm the circuits first. Then I do Aya. And Aya is awareness, which is awareness of my thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and the behaviors that I have just been doing for the last hour. And it's just a pure awareness innercise so that I could be deliberate. So, have my thoughts been positive? Have I been focused? Am I feeling good? Am I in the right state to accomplish my goals and dreams? So thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors. And it's important that when you do this without judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification. One more time. Without judgment, shame, blame, guilt, or justification. Why? Like, why would you want to judge, blame, or shame yourself when you're just being aware of a pattern so you can change it? So you just have observation. Then you ask it, what's my intention for the next hour? Well, my intention is to be more focused. My intention is to stop doing this and to start doing that, which is going to be more productive. My intention is to be happy. My intention is to be, in a really good mood. Great. Set that intention. And then the A in AIA, awareness, intention, action, is the second A. And so what is one thing I could do right now to set the new course for the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that I want for the next hour? Now, what happens when you start to practice that is you start to become deliberate around your attention, your intention, and your behaviors. Now, it may seem like a simple innercise to do, and it is, but what happens is if you do that one time, that's good. If you do it 100 times, though, it starts to become a habit. And the very nature of how our brains work is anything that we repeat, our brain says, okay, Since you're doing this and using energy to do this consciously all the time, let me just create a subconscious pattern to run that scenario automatically. So you take something that's initially a conscious behavior, and through spaced repetition, you make it an unconscious automatic behavior. Now, that might not sound like it's that great, except for it becomes part of something known as the default mode network, your automatic self. What if you could create an automatic switch in your brain that every hour it caused you to recalibrate, so that you operate at the highest level of emotional being, the highest level of mental focus, the highest state, the highest impact, highest income producing activities every hour? Do you think your life might change?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is part of what we call is becoming unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
As opposed to being unconsciously incompetent, we become unconsciously competent. And that's the level of mastery and excellence, is when you don't have to think about doing the things that are going to catapult you to the highest level of your success and well-being.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a powerful, real world, tangible, piece of advice and exercise, Innercise that
Innercise, that's right.
that anyone can use. I absolutely love that. So good.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's about, I think, 19 or 20 of them that I teach in the book with step-by-step instruction. But then I also, as I mentioned, I created the audios to go with it, where I actually coach people so that they do it every morning during the day with me coaching them in their ear. And I think the book on Amazon, I think it's $10, $12. It's best investments you'll make this year on personal development.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the tangible real world usability of it all. It's super potent, and yeah, definitely gonna incorporate that into my own daily flow. So thank you for sharing.
Awesome. You're welcome.
So you talked about earlier, you mentioned some 4 blocks that hold people back. Would you care to share a little insight into those?
Sure. So let's take any goal. Give me any goal that somebody would want to have, and I'll share with you one of 4 things that could hold them back, other than their own knowledge and skills, which is actually, it is one thing. I'll share 3 more, but I'll share what happens when we don't have the knowledge and skills. I'll share the neurological implication of not having the knowledge and skill. So give me any goal you want. I don't care if it's financial goal, business goal, health goal, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think financial is a big one for a lot of people. So they fantasize about, wow, what would it be like not to, need to focus on working the majority of my day, and to have that, residual income kind of situation. So I think that's a big one.
Financial freedom.
Financial freedom.
Right? So having financial freedom, so emotional freedom, financial freedom, choice freedom to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it. And so first question is that possible?
Yep.
Yep. So it's possible. And there's people in their teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, hundreds that have it. So first is it's possible. So what could prevent somebody who's listening right now from that financial freedom? So let's say they set a goal for financial freedom, and they have an idea of what it's like, and like, oh my God, they high five with their friends and they feel butterflies in their stomach. Oh, that would be freaking great. But what if they have limiting beliefs? Limiting beliefs like, but I'm too young, I'm too old, but I'm a woman, but I'm a young guy. I'm Asian. Didn't you know that it's hard for Asians to become financially free? Oh, well, I'm black, I'm white, I'm whatever it is. Any limiting belief is an implicit memory in our brain. And so when we have a conscious goal or a conscious vision, and we have a limiting belief, whatever that limiting belief might be, that limiting belief will prevent us from taking the behaviors required to actually achieve the goal. because beliefs drive behavior more than a vision does. Beliefs drive behaviors more than goals do. And so beliefs are part of our implicit, hardwired part of our brain that we developed from birth on, because we were not born with any with any belief, positive or negative, constructive or destructive. So we actually have to learn how to take a limiting belief and stop it from automatically holding us back. And to do that, there's a concept, not a concept, but a technique that we teach, and that is write out any limiting belief you have. I'm too young. I'm too old. I'm too Asian, too Caucasian, too white, too black. I don't care what it is. I don't have the education. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the skills. Whatever it is, write it down. The next thing I want you to write down is this. I want you to write it out this way now. So let's say you said, I am too young. I'll just use that as a simple example. Now what I want you to write down is, in the past, I used to believe that I was too young. And now I'm going to use my youth to make my fortune. Now, just by changing the words from I'm too young to in the past I used to believe this, but now I'm going to use this to my advantage to make my fortune, the initial I am too young is a fact in your brain. And what we want to do is override this fact with a new fact that we are going to imprint into our brain through spaced repetition, visualization, and emotionalization. And we are going to deactivate the old pattern, which is what a belief is. And we are going to take a new pattern and we are going to reinforce it every single day through affirmations, through reading it, through visualizing it, through creating some imprinting materials to impress that into the subconscious part of our brain. And if we did that for 100 days, that new pattern would override the old pattern, and the perspective, emotions, and behavior would start to match the new pattern. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is upgrading your software. Your beliefs are software. Let's upgrade the software. Issue number 2, self-image. So let's say you have this vision or goal of having financial freedom and choice freedom and emotional freedom. But deep in your psyche, you don't think that you're worthy of that. Right? So if you don't feel worthy of that, if your self-image, self-worth, or self-esteem, those three go hand in hand, don't match the vision or the goals, then just like a lottery winner who makes millions in the lottery or wins millions in the lottery, almost 90% of them get rid of all the money within 3 years because there's a mismatch between the money and the lifestyle they're living and the money that they have and their self-image. You will not take inspired action. If you do, you'll sabotage your success because there's a mismatch between your conscious vision and goals and your subconscious self-image, self-worth, or self-esteem. So we have to integrate those two parts of the brain so they're in coherence instead of in chaos. And so that's part 2. And we use a lot of the same principles. There's probably about 10 different evidence-based methodologies to recreate, rewrite, imprint a self-image story, money story, health story, etc. Number 3, let's say that we have the right beliefs and we have the right self-image, but we have fear of succeeding and then failing, or we have a fear of failure, or we have a fear of trying my best and being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged. In other words, we are, whether we know it or we don't know it, we are activating a part of our brain called the amygdala, which is part of the emotional center of the brain. And that part of our brain that gets tripped deactivates motivation, deactivates the Einstein genius part of our brain, deactivates the motor cortex, and we prefer to stay in our comfort zone versus taking the risk that we might be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, or fail. And so this is all about now emotional control. And when we don't learn how to first understand that all emotions are part of our subconscious conditioning, they cause the trigger of neurochemicals that causes certain feelings. And there's feelings that cause us to move towards something, and there's feelings that cause us to move away from something. And so whenever we have a potential opportunity to be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, or fail, we run the other way, or we keep doing the stupid things that we do, or we try to fight it. So that's the fight, flight, freeze response or reaction in the brain. So far we have limiting beliefs, we have self-image, and we have fear holds us back. And then if we don't have the knowledge or the skills to accomplish the goal that we want or to deal with our fears, then that triggers our self-doubt circuit and our lack of confidence circuit, which then deactivates the motivational circuit because we are biologically wired to move away from anything that's risky that could cause us to be out of our comfort zone or real or imagined pain or discomfort. So a person who has not been made aware in what I've just talked about is going to prefer to master disappointment and their current comfort zone versus mastering change, because change requires paying a switch cost. So if you haven't worked out and you start, jogging a little bit or doing your bike or Stairmaster or hiking, or you do some weights, you're going to be a little bit sore. You're going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but that that's part of you developing, whether it's cardiovascular strength or physical strength. Well, when we're looking to change at the neurological level, there is discomfort, and it's felt almost the exact same way, except for the actual physical pain. Our brain perceives that pain and discomfort as something that it doesn't like. So our brain is wired like a thermostat to keep you in your comfort zone based on the settings. And so everything that I teach in all of my programs, whether you're a business owner or not, whether you're 20 years old or 80, is all around how to self-regulate and how to rewire your brain to that next level, the next setting of the success you want, so you don't sabotage along the way.
Powerful, powerful stuff. Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
So as we sort of wind down here today, one of the things I always love to hear is a good story. I love story time. And preferably a story of synchronicity, serendipity, positive paranormal story. Something tells me you have something up your sleeve that would qualify.
Sure. I think one of the famous ones, in my life is back in 1995, I started to, in addition to having my goals written down, in writing and laminated so I could look at them every day, I started to add pictures of cars that I wanted, of clothes that I wanted, of shoes that I wanted, of jewelry that I wanted, of trips that I wanted to go on. I used to cut out pictures from magazines. And in 1995, I found this Dream Homes magazine from the United States. I was living in Canada, then I was living in Indiana. Sorry, I found it in Indiana. And I cut out a picture of this home that it just looked like a spectacular home on a mountaintop with 320 orange trees. I think it was 185 windows, architecturally spectacular. About 10,000 square feet, tennis court, pool, the works. It was just like a dream home. And so I cut that picture out of the magazine. I put it on what I called as my vision board. And I had 6 vision boards, one for health, one for wealth, one for relationships, one for business, one for fun and experiences, and one for charitable stuff. And every day I used to look at my vision board and pretend, I used to just pretend. People thought I was nuts, I was crazy, but they'd come into my home office and go, "What the hell are those things?" I said, "Those are my vision boards." And every day I would visualize them. And then in 1997, I got an opportunity to be the CEO of a company in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I packed up my house. I rented my house in Indiana, put all my stuff in storage. I moved to Vancouver, British Columbia for a year and a half with my wife and 2 kids, rented a house there in Vancouver. That job or that position didn't work out. Then I moved from there to LA for a year, then from LA to San Diego, the end of 1999. And bought a house, renovated it. And in May of 2000, I got my furniture from Indiana that had been in storage for 5 years. I had United Van Lines bring me all of my furniture and all the boxes, a whole truckload. And the movers put all of the different, furniture and boxes in the respective rooms that my wife and I asked them to do it. And one morning, my son Keenan, who was 5 at the time, he's 25 now, at 5 at the time, came into my home office, which was a building outside of the home. It was right on the property, but a different building. He sat on these boxes on the edge of the door, and he was banging the boxes with his feet. And he says, "Daddy, what's in the boxes?" And I said to him, "Sweetheart, they're my vision boards." And he said, "What's a vision board?" And I said, "Well, sweetheart," I said, when Daddy has a dream or a goal that he wants to achieve, I put it on my vision board." And at 5 years old, he says, "When you have a dream, you put it on your vision board?" He didn't understand because what he referenced as a dream. So I said, "Sweetheart, let me show you." And so I opened up the boxes, which were sealed with the United Van Line seals all around them, and I had to take wire cutters to cut the stuff that was holding the boxes together. And I pulled out this first vision board. They're about 3 feet by 3 feet each. I pulled out the first one. There was a Mercedes-Benz on there, and I said to my son, I said, "Sweetheart, you see, the Mercedes-Benz on here, the car that we had when we lived in Indiana? I put that up on the board before I bought it. And you see that nice Italian suit that's on here? It's the one that's in Daddy's closet. I put it up here before I got it." And so he started to understand that I took pictures of stuff that I wanted. And then when I pulled out the second board that had been in storage for 5 years, right in the middle of the board, there was a picture of the house that he and I were standing in. So not a house like it. 5 years earlier, in a magazine that I found, Dream Homes Magazine, I cut out a picture of a house, and I just used to visualize it and say to myself, one day when I can afford any home I want, I'm going to buy a house that looks like this one. Well, for 2 years, I visualized it. Then I did nothing with it because it was in storage in Indiana. And so I was living in the house of that I had put on a dream board.
Wow.
So ever since then, which was 2000, I have been on a quest, Brandon. I have studied with some wonderful quantum physicists, quantum mechanic experts, molecular biologists, neuroscientists. I have made it a lifelong quest to understand energy, my brain, goals, achievement, what holds us back, what moves us forward. How do we tap into this field that we are in? How do we become and stay in resonance with all of the unbelievable genius that's within us and all around us and everyone and everything? That has been my quest. That is what I research, study, and teach every day. And it's the way I live my life now.
Beautiful. I love that. Was that story, did you share that on The Secret? I feel like
I did.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. I thought that was, it's been a long time since I've seen that documentary, but what a great, powerful story. That says it all.
So needless to say, on my desk here right now, I have something that I created that I teach a lot of my students. I have my Exceptional Life Blueprint. It's about 45 pages, and the first 8 or 10 pages is my visual digital. It's not digital. It's actually a printed vision board that I look at every single day.
Cool. Very, very cool. So for those who would like to continue following your work, connect with you, maybe, get involved with some of the offerings that you have, what is, maybe you can tell a little bit about that. And for everything that you share, by the way, guys, we're going to do a forwarding link so you can easily get to it, which I'll share after you talk a little bit about it, John.
Sure. So, anybody could follow me on social media. I'm on all the social media on, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I have channels on all of them. Something that you mentioned earlier was around, we talked about money. And, I love to help people earn more money so that they can actually do more good in the world and enjoy their life more. Money, I learned many years ago, is just a tool to give us some security, some freedom to take care of ourselves, which I think is very important, but also to do more stuff in the world, to explore, to experience, to give more, have more, be more, and to really enjoy life. And so I recently released a program called 7 Days to a Millionaire Mindset. And it's a phenomenal program that's a video-based program, one video a day for 7 days, plus a workbook of what to do to develop the right beliefs, the self-image, to manage the emotions, to create and imprint and impress a new money story into your subconscious mind. And the reviews from people around the world that have been doing it is that it's life-changing because I break it down step by step by step on not just what to do, but how to do it, and then how to take it from the exercises and Innercise that I will teach you, but how to get it into the right part of your brain so you start to think, feel, and act like a millionaire so that you earn the income to give you the financial freedom and the lifestyle of your dreams. So if you'd like, I'll get a link to you so that everybody can take a look at it. And I've made it affordable so that anybody can afford it. And so we'll make sure that I'll give you a link to that.
Perfect. And then I'll just do a forwarding. If you guys go to positivehead.com/millionaire, then you can check that out further and get involved if it feels in alignment to do so. And it's anyone who has built a company to 1,200 employees. I've had 100+ employees, and 12 times that amount. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of energy. I look at money as it's energy. It buys you time. It buys you time. Most importantly, the most valuable resource, and it's energy. And there's a lot of energy in the universe, and you're a part of it all. And having more of it will definitely makes things easier in a lot of ways, right?
You got it.
Cool. Well, yeah, once again, guys, it's positivehead.com/millionaire. You can check that out. And with that being said, I do have one final question for you, John. It is this. In 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to John Assaraf?
To live, to love, to grow, to be mega happy, and to share unconditionally everything you can while you're here.
And so it is. Thank you for helping us steward that beautiful path and leading the way. You are such an inspiration, John. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to share some of your wisdom.
Thank you so much, Brandon. What a joy. I appreciate being on your program.
All right, everyone. Until next time, journey well. Love you so much. And if you're feeling the call to come for a week retreat-style Mystic Manor immersion, remember to go now and book your time to speak with me directly about stepping into the optimistic vortex at calendly.com/talkwithbrandon while there are still spots left. Otherwise, I look forward to co-creating magic with you at the Mystic Manor.